some of the clearest water you can find anywhere.
It's beautiful water.
Do this gracefully.
All right, that was pretty darn graceful. Let's go take a look around out in the main body of water.
Sounds good. Just enough water.
Woo!
Beautiful.
And then, boy, it just drops off.
Oh, it does. I mean, it's precipitous.
So, Quarry Park.
Yep. It's an old abandoned rock quarry owned by Vulcan, and it was used for gravel, the place, and that was actually used around a lot of the streets in Winston-Salem.
And that's pretty neat that this actually literally is part of the foundation of Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
Underlaying the roads.
It really is. I mean, because as we sit, we're about 2 miles as the crow flies from downtown Winston-Salem.
So it's created a huge man-made structure right here in Winston that's basically a big hole.
Yep.
And the depth is
175 feet probably right now. Yeah.
So it's a really deep body of water for the Piedmont with these steep walls. Nobody has a really clear story of how this flooded, apparently.
Yeah.
There are lots of stories, but there's no good definition of which one is correct.
Yeah, you got different theories. One is that they hit a vein of water when they were digging, which that's pretty much been debunked. Other theories say there's a creek right over here on the other side that when we had some massive rains, it flooded out and then flooded down in here to start. But the quarry they quit mining it in 1972. They used deposits on site that they'd already mined until the early 80s when they ceased operations here. And at that point, that's when it started filling with water just naturally.
Probably there's no really exciting story about it, just a natural fill over time.
Yeah.
A big hole in the ground's gonna fill with water.
That's right. So, but you know, it's fun to say that there's equipment buried down in the bottom.
And who knows?
Right. I do know there's a car in the bottom. It was used in the film Lesser Evil in 1997.
We had a plan. It was a good one. It would have worked.
The Lesser Evil.
It would be interesting to take a look at the bottom and see what all has accumulated here through the years.
Yes, it would. I mean, you know, you can see 16 feet down in the water pretty easily, especially on a bright sunny day, but that's not going to get you down 175 feet.
No. Future explorations there, getting down into there. This is probably one of the cleanest bodies of water in the entire basin.
Yeah.
Groundwater fed, very little runoff going into it. Of course, all of the aquatic life is introduced into it. Probably birds bring in several fish, and jellyfish.
Yes, there's a
Freshwater
unique
jellyfish.
freshwater jellyfish. Real small, about the size of a quarter or 50-cent piece.
And those are very unusual in this basin. I imagine that back before the fence was secure all the way around it, that it got quite a bit of human traffic.
Yeah.
Being a big open body of water.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because, you know, when people introduce different species to locations that they're not native to, it creates problems in that little ecosystem, and this is its own little micro ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's got everything dumped into it through the years that somebody decided was, oh, this needs to go in the old quarry. Nobody cares.
Right, little pet. I don't want to kill it, so I'm going to go release it in the water, and you know, it just spreads from there.
So it's its own unique micro ecosystem now, right here, and of course a beautiful place to come take a look at.
Yes, it is.
Let's move over a little closer to the wall and just take a look, given the opportunity.
Oh, this is a terrible day at work. I mean,
yeah. These are the days we dread. And over on the walls here in front, where we were talking about groundwater, those walls, usually the same sections always look like they're wet down here. So definitely you can see some of these sections, and you see a lot of plant life working its way down that created environment where it is damp but gets plenty of sun.
Yeah, you can see the water trickling down now. Which is interesting, it hasn't rained in a week at this point.
Yeah. So it's a pretty substantial amount of groundwater that's being held actually pretty high on this little knoll. So it really supports the idea that this is just natural groundwater that flooded this quarry over time as it was abandoned. Obviously there's a lot of water in the area, so most old quarries tend to fill over time, and this one obviously has some pretty good supplies of water to do it with. So it's not a huge surprise, but you know, some of the stories make better stories.
That they do. But I mean, this is a massive open hole.
Yeah.
And you talk about the groundwater coming in, and you know, with all that high elevation all the way around it, it can get a tremendous amount of rain from the air itself, and then the groundwater coming in during a single event.
It also provides a neat haven for wildlife. Back in here, we have this huge pond, fenced off, right in the city, clear water.
I would venture to say that with all these cliff faces, that there's probably several nests for birds of prey in this area along the sides of the quarry walls. Just really beautiful. The rock face.
Yes, it's a pair of mating ravens, I believe.
I mean, it doesn't look like there'd be anywhere there to actually stand.
And I know Canadian geese love this. I see them here quite a bit.
Yes, they love it more than we love them.
Are those residents, do they winter here usually, or are those migratory?
Yeah, most of the Canadian geese that we have in this area are resident at this point. You know, even the ones that somewhat migrate, they return every year to lay new eggs. So this is their home base.
Okay.
So they tend to nest in this location along that back rim over there, where you have the nice grassed area about 6 feet in elevation above the water.
Of course, one of the neat things about this lake too, being cut off from most runoff, is the nutrient level is very low in this water, which means algae is just not something that you're going to see a lot of in here. And of course, this time of year, all of the aquatic vegetation is down and died back quite a bit with the cool water.
Correct.
But typically this is going to stay clear through most of the summer, whereas a lot of our other lakes and reservoirs in the Yadkin chain are starting to see algal blooms by midsummer.
Yeah.
This water is kind of unique in our basin. Just that low level of nutrients in here, that clarity, that's going to stay year round through here.
Unfortunately, we have this trash in here that people like to throw.
Which is a problem throughout the entire basin. It's just very visible here because it has nowhere to go.
Correct.
It's going to float here until it waterlogs and sinks or gets picked up.
Really like to encourage people to leave no trace. If they pack it in, pack it out with you when you go. So the deepest part of the quarry is located along this back wall, kind of where the overlook is. The entry road kind of circles in this way, and it would circle down to the base.
Kind of like a big spiral.
Yep.
Moving down to the bottom. We can see a lot of the results of that slow water level rise on the tops of all of the dead trees over on this side. And those would have been along that road that you were talking about.
Correct,
that
yeah.
kind of corkscrews its way down through here. And you see the trees kind of disappearing down into the water here. as they've been flooded out along that road.
Yeah, you can really track that whole road coming down in here until the water is just too deep by that ridge line of trees. It's amazing how these trees just grow straight on the side of the stone. You wouldn't think there'd be enough surface and soil to provide them with the strength and nutrients to stay. But I guess the roots just kind of wrap around the rock and find any crevice they can to hold.
Yeah, it's actually kind of amazing that the walls of this have not been covered with kudzu yet, given its normal ability to cover everything.
Once again, another non-native species introduced that goes rampant.
And more water coming down.
I mean, that's a huge cliff.
Yeah.
I'd say that's easily 200 feet of surface area right there going vertical. Some nice coloration in this rock here.
Yeah, there's a neat vein of, thought it was quartz, but it's not. It's kind of a geologist's dream to get down in here.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course, I'm not a geologist, but I can appreciate the fact that you can see so much where this has been cut away. One of the things that I love about coming out here to the quarry is I sometimes wish that I were a graduate student again, because there are so many graduate projects sitting right here waiting.
I would imagine that most of your fish will bed kind of over in this area where the water's not as deep and the road's exiting out of here, and I guess they have to move their bedding areas every year to follow the climbing water.
It's kind of an unusual situation with this, and you've got so much open water, but the available spawning area for a lot of fish is going to be very limited to that particular area of this road that's shallow enough at the time.
Right.
And like you say, it's going to move a little bit every year as this slowly keeps filling up with water.
Shade. The drop off the sides is just automatic, straight down.
Yeah, I was impressed as we came off of the road area where we were in 6 inches of water, just barely floating the canoe, and it just drops out of sight right there.
I mean, I can see tree limbs down here off these dead trees, 10 foot in the water.
Yeah. Just watch those trees disappear out of sight.
Now the visibility of the water, I guess that's just subject to the amount of light that we can see. Would that be accurate?
The light and the lack of materials in the
day
water. What we mentioned about the lack of algae earlier, and of course this time of year,
back in the early days of the quarry before bulldozers.
not having the algae, but also not having any sediment load in the water, so that you basically just got water. That's all we're looking down through. No sediment in the way, no suspended plants, no algae.
It's almost like a big bathtub.
Yes, a very big bathtub, a very cold bathtub right now.
Very kudzu. Once again, another. So you can see, you have the big walkout platform, and then you have an overlook here, overlook straight this way, and then another one. So you can really get multiple views of the body from those areas.
Yeah, it's for something that has to be fenced off. It actually has a lot of visual access to it. And this is definitely a place to visit if you're in Winston.
Oh, absolutely.
I know that we come out here quite a bit for photography.
Well, it's got some nice paved greenways that run through it, and then you have the beautiful scenery. And like I said, it's 5 minutes from downtown Winston-Salem, so you're right in the middle of everything. It doesn't take a long time to get here, so you can come visit and then go on about your day.
Yeah.
This was a really unique experience for us to get to have today, to show some of these things to the people, to our friends.
I appreciate you inviting me out to to go along on the tour. We've had a beautiful day. It's a really, probably in the true sense of the word, unique park.
Yes.
Certainly for this area, to have the quarry filled with water and then have the huge observation platform. So it's a beautiful area, and I certainly invite anybody in the Winston area to come out and take a look at it. It's a pretty special place.
Absolutely, definitely worth a visit. You never know what you're going to see.
Nope.